Hi, my name is Amalia, and I'd like to tell you about this awkward experience I encountered when I first arrived in America. You see, I wasn't born here in the United States, but I really do feel at home now. Years back, I moved to Los Angeles with my mom. I was so excited, but also really scared. It was the first time I traveled abroad from my home country, and it wasn't exactly the best of situations. Mom and Dad had gotten a divorce, and my mother wanted a fresh start. She wanted to leave everything behind and start a new life abroad. I was 15, and this meant leaving all my family and friends behind, even my father. He promised he'd be seeing me during the holidays, and he would also fly here every few months, but it was still heartbreaking. I mean, I was pretty close to him. But he agreed that I would have a better future in America and allowed my mother to take me with her. Nevertheless, I refused to focus on the bad side of my situation. I'm the kind of person who's always looking for the silver lining of every experience she faces, you know? So I instead decided that I would make the best of my new life in this great country, even if it meant starting all over. Life in the United States has really been utterly amazing. There is no question about it. I've made so many friends, and this is truly a great country. After years of living here, I can confidently say that it's my place in the world. I've made many friends here and do really well at school. Leaving my old friends back at home wasn't easy, but I stayed in touch with them, and the people I've met here have really helped me out a lot. They were the reason I adapted so well to a new culture, but not before I made a few silly blunders. Things weren't easy when we first arrived. As excited as I was, our first apartment was super small and I had to take 2 buses to get to school. I also decided to work a part-time job since I wanted to help Mom with the bills. She worked so hard, so many hours weekly, and she really did deserve a break. Mom was amazing and tried to give me everything I needed. I saw how tired she was all the time, though. I didn't feel it was fair that I should simply study and then go back home while she worked 2 jobs. So I got hired, first as a nanny for children of the neighborhood and later as a cashier in a supermarket. This meant I had a little extra money to enjoy pampering myself just a tiny bit from time to time. And back then, treating myself meant basically getting some fast food meals every now and then. Of course, since I didn't want to spend too much, I was always looking for bargains. After all, there's a saying here in America that goes, "A penny saved is a penny earned." It might seem like I'm being cheap, but back then, we were really struggling with money, and I didn't want to make our situation any worse. Much to my surprise, there were so many fast food places to pick. Back in my country, there were only 2 or 3 chains. But here, oh God, there's Jack in the Box, Taco Bell, Wendy's, and so on. It was insane to me how many options were around. However, I decided I wanted to try what I felt was the most popular one, McDonald's. Yeah, I know, super American, but that was what I wanted. I had arrived in America only a few weeks back, and I wanted to really try to live the lifestyle, or at least what I believed it was. I walked inside thinking about what I wanted to order. There were some really cheap and delicious options, so I was relieved to discover I was really going to be able to save up after all. When I walked over to place my order, I saw a nice older lady smiling at me on the other side of the counter. Before I could even say hello, she says, "For here to go." I stared at her, so confused. It really sounded like a statement and not a question, and I didn't even know what she meant. To tell you the truth, I had never ever heard anything like that before. Here or to go, I kept thinking about what she could possibly mean, but came up with nothing. So finally, I leaned forward and timidly asked, "What do you mean?" The lady was so sweet, and she didn't seem annoyed or anything like that. Instead, she smiled at me brightly and tried to explain it to me further. "I mean, if you want to eat your meal here or take it with you." I frowned quietly, so confused about the whole matter. Why was she asking this before she even took my order? And did it make any difference to her? I had never been asked anything like that and couldn't understand why it was the first thing she asked. So I began asking myself if perhaps they'd charge me more for one of those options. That must have been why she didn't even take my order before knowing if I'd be staying there. Surely she was going to charge me extra. I didn't want to sound like a fool, so I really carefully asked her, "So, what's the difference between those options? Do you charge extra if I take it with me or stay here? Do I have to pay to use the tables?" I was super concerned because I didn't want to have to pay any extras. After all, I was trying to save and I was already paying for the menu. I was determined to choose the cheapest option. If I had to take the meal with me, I'd eat in the park or something. I didn't mind too much, though the tables there did seem comfortable. The nice lady laughed kindly, but it didn't seem like she was making fun of me or anything like that. I didn't understand what was so funny about what I had asked her. "Oh dear, don't worry," she said, still chuckling. "It's all the same. We don't charge extra to eat here. I was asking so that I knew if I should put the food in a bag or a tray for you, little lady." I began laughing meekly, finally understanding what was going on. This was clearly just about food packaging. I felt so silly. Believe me when I say I blushed all over and told her that I would be eating right there. It seemed far more comfortable than having to head over to the park. Since it was all the same and I wouldn't have to pay any extra, it seemed like the better option. So yeah, I was super embarrassed back then, and every single time I go to a fast food place now, I think about that nice lady and my silly questions. I sometimes laugh to myself, and people stare at me like I'm crazy. My best friend knows that story by heart after all this time, of course, and she always teases me about it. Now, though, after all these years, going to McDonald's or any other fast food place, I remember my first few weeks in America. I didn't know much about this country back then, but it was still a super exciting time. I feel kind of silly about it, but it's still a happy memory. I wouldn't change it for the world. It was one of my many experiences in the United States, and one I can always laugh about when I'm out with my friends. Fortunately, Mom and I are doing much better for ourselves nowadays, so I don't have to save every cent like I used to. I'll be going to college soon and even got a scholarship to help me deal with tuition without drowning myself in student loans. Thank you for watching. Have you ever done anything super silly that you've never forgotten about? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to check out other videos on the channel and subscribe.